Jan at the moment, but I'm sure she'll join us in a moment.
And Jennifer.
Jennifer, but we haven't received regrets yet, have we?
Nope.
There she is.
So I see that Jan has joined us. We have no regrets this evening, but we haven't heard yet from Jennifer, so I hope she'll join us shortly. So welcome, everyone, to our April 20th, 2021 board meeting. We acknowledge we are meeting on the traditional land of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is represented by the communities of Saugeen First Nation and Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We also think of the Métis Nation of Ontario, whose history and people are well represented in Bruce and Grey County. As I said, we have no regrets at this point in time. And I would just like to share our moment of reflection. I hope everyone was able to enjoy some moments of relaxation and rejuvenation over the April break. I recognize it was a busy week for some of our staff and extend thanks for their efforts. This includes those who were performing their regular duties to keep our organization smoothly operating, and those who were preparing for this week's pivot to remote learning. As students and staff return to remote learning for an undefined period of time, I know that the feeling is all too familiar. Just like last spring and this past January, families are once again adapting, juggling responsibilities, and facing uncertainty. The good news is that our previous experience has built up capacity for resilience and undeniable proof we can do this again. This time we also have more reasons to be optimistic. While we have yet to reach the finish line of this pandemic, the distance, I hope, has narrowed significantly compared to where we were a year ago. We look forward to the positive results that increased COVID-19 vaccinations will soon bring both locally and provincially. I would like to dedicate our moment of reflection to all our Blue Water students, staff, and families as they navigate through this uncertain time. We want them to know that we are in this together and we are here to support them every step of the way. We wish them strength and send our thoughts for their safety, well-being, and success. So our first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder that the agenda for the regular meeting of the board of April 20th, 2021 be approved as printed. I see Trustee Dawson and Trustee Morgan. All in favor? And that is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on any of the items on our agenda tonight? I see none. So we have two minutes to approve. The first is the minutes of the regular meeting of the board of March 23rd, 2021 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover, please? I see Trustee Lutz and Trustee Morgan. All in favor? Thank you, that is carried. And our second set of minutes is that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Board meeting of April 6th be approved, of 2021 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee Atkinson. And a seconder, Trustee Lutz. Thank you very much. And all in favor? And that is carried. Was there any business arising from the minutes? I see none. Thank you. Which takes us to our excellence in education. I would like to invite Superintendent of Education Keith Lefebvre, but I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Skilled Trades Welding Learning Opportunities Report for information. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee Atkinson, seconder. Trustee Dawson, thank you very much, and welcome, Superintendent Lefebvre.
Thank you, Chair. It is my pleasure to introduce Dave Barrett, our OYAP coordinator, Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Coordinator, and Mark Klunder, who is a technology teacher here with the Blue Water District School Board at Owen Sound District Secondary School. And as you can see through the report, we received a very generous donation from the Canadian Welding Bureau, Welding Foundation, Bruce Power, and United Association of Journeymen and Apprentices of the Plumbing and Pipe Fitting Industry of Canada. And this, the work that's been done has put a lot of equipment within our schools, within Walkerton, Kincardine, Saugeen, John Diefenbaker. Well over $100,000 in industry-grade multi-process welding machines. And Owen Sound District Secondary School also received a TEX, VRTEX 360 virtual reality welding training simulator, which Mr. Klender is going to do a little bit of a demonstration for you virtually. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to these two very knowledgeable professionals who are going to walk you through their presentation. I'm going to turn it over to you, Dave, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Lefebvre. My colleague Mark Klunder and I have a brief presentation for you. I'll start with a PowerPoint and a little bit of history. Then we'll show the OSDSS simulator video. And then Mark and I are more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So starting off, we've got our PowerPoint. Can everybody see that? I've just lost everybody for a second.
Yes, no, it's
Okay.
there. Thank you.
Thank you. So working towards this project, as Superintendent said, we've got generous community partners. So the Canadian Welding Foundation, or Canadian Welding Bureau Foundation, reached out to me in late June last year to talk about this project. And their goal is part of this pyramid that we designed for the project. And basically what it is to encourage young people to explore the opportunities in the skilled trades, which aligns exactly what we do in OYAP. And then particularly to start focusing on the welding industry. So we brought in partners, the Canadian Welding Bureau actually brought in partners with UA Canada and Bruce Power. And they collaborated and gave us over $100,000 to spend on welding equipment to upgrade shops. It was really interesting because the first phone call was, we want to bring welding to Grey Bruce. And I'm going, well, we've already got great welding shops, but you can really help us to enhance them. So that's the conversation that happened over the summer. And then as students come in and we get the UA involved, students now have an opportunity to actually go to the UA Canada Training Center. We'd hope that would happen, but COVID is preventing it right now. But this is a long-term partnership where students will get free training along with educators, and we're going to take them to these training centers so they have an opportunity to build those skills. And the students who really show a passion and aptitude and a desire to get into this, we're going to show them clear pathways to direct employment and apprenticeship to become high-pressure welders in the industry. And welding is one skill that I constantly talk to students about. I call it a gateway skill. If you can weld, it opens all kinds of doors because carpenters need to be able to weld. Automotive service techs need to be able to weld. Pipe fitters, steam fitters, everyone. So it's a great skill to have no matter where on the pyramid the student decides to stop. So in with the new, with the Canadian Welding Bureau Foundation's buying power, they were able to secure a lot of equipment. The discounts were, lack of a better way of saying it, insane. So we were able to get way more equipment than we ever dreamed we'd be able to get. And they arrived in boxes. So you can see Bill standing next to the new equipment that arrived at SDSS, the new Miller equipment that was installed. I believe this is JDSS. The equipment that it replaced, it was still usable. So other schools who were struggling or maybe needed some new equipment, we were able to redistribute the previously enjoyed. We made sure that it met parks requirements. We made sure that, all the different things were in place. So we redistributed some of that. And then part of this, with what funds were left over, we were able to purchase basically brand new equipment for all of the booths, welding booths in all of our school board. So they received industry grade auto darkening helmets, new jackets. The gloves are yet to come in yet, but they're all going to get multiple sets of welding gloves, wire, all kinds of attachments, everything like this. So we loaded everyone up through this partnership, and all this created buzz within the schools. And we're hearing anecdotally right now a lot of buzz in the schools around students wanting to get in and try welding, and it's led to very engaged student welders. So now I'm going to show you our new welding simulator that is at OSDSS. I'm going to have to include sound. And here's Mr. Klunder.
Hey, Mark here. I'll try to be as quick. It takes a little time because it's computer. So you, as a student, you log in. And then once you're at the screen, you choose what you're going to do. So if I'm a new student, often what I'll choose is an easier weld like this. So I choose the plate. Now I have to choose the plate, okay, that matches the screen, and I set it up on the simulator area here. This has already been configured and set up. And then I go through my screens. I can choose whether I'm doing MIG welding, those welders I know, so a MIG welding simulator, or I can choose to do a stick electrode simulator or shielded metal welding. I have to set this up. It's the first time I turn this on, so I actually have to set this up. You can choose what the virtual reality background looks like, so it's kind of fun. Weld booth, desert base, motorsports, which is my favorite, power plant, which if you're a Tiverton, that would be nice, iron worker. So we're gonna go from there. Now you have to go through your settings as if you're a welder, as if this is a real welder. So there is a guide, a sheet to help you set this up. But this is something the teachers might set up for the students. They have to know their settings. Like I said, there is a guide, paper-based guide to help you. Sometimes a little bit touchy. If I don't have my settings right, I will get an incorrect settings. So I have to go back and set this up. Oh, wait, let's pause that. I screwed it up. All right, I'm back. So I got my correct settings and I set it up. Once you hit the correct settings, you get the screen looking at what the virtual reality helmet looks like. So I'm going to take it out. So looks like a welding helmet. Inside you have goggles. We've been sanitizing in between students using it, and of course we wear our masks. And you set it up and adjust the eyepiece so you can see. And I'm not sure if you can see the screen behind me or not, but your screen will look like mine. And as soon as I pull the trigger, you will do a simulated weld. Now I'm going to flip this up. Now what's interesting also about this is a few things from a teacher perspective. I can look at it from a graphical sense that has actions and cues. So I can look at it from a graphical sense with actions and cues to tell me key criteria to improve my weld. I can also look at the weld, turn it, look at it from different angles, give feedback to a student on the weld, or I can look at it through the goggles. I can end my pass per se, and I will get a score. This score can get recorded on a USB printout, very similar to the screen, so students can compete almost and try to get a better score. And it gives you an idea of where to improve. Okay. One also thing that I think is interesting is, and this is from an experience standpoint, I can put cues on here to help the student when they're simulating. So contact, tip, work distance, angle, aim, travel speed. Then when I go to my weld, so I'll go to my weld and my videographer will show you the screen. You'll see the screen looks a little different now. You can see that there is colors and cues to help me. That's really weird. That's very interesting. I'm not actually welding. Oh, the new coupon, I guess. Try that. There we go. So when the student is welding, they can use those cues to help them improve their weld and develop muscle memory for welding. So it's a pretty neat system. We're still exploring it. We're still exploring how it works with young students and how it works with our timetables and our curriculum and that kind of thing. So we've been using it since Christmas, and currently our grade 9s are using it. That's why it's in the hallway here, so they're not being subjected to some of the safety issues and safety liabilities and tests and using it out here. Okay? But come on down, try it. It's kind of fun, and hopefully we'll have it around for a while. Thanks, Dave. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Mr. Klunder, and thank you for being here this evening. And thank you to Dave as well for the presentation. I think that you were willing to take some questions as well at this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can hear you if you can hear me.
Great.
That's excellent. I have a question, but I'll look to any other trustees if they have questions first. I see Trustee Morgan.
Yes, this is not a question, this is a comment. Gentlemen, please keep up the good work. Trades are very near and dear to my heart, and we need them right across the board. Thank you.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trustees have any other questions?
I think someone's had their hand up.
Director Wilder.
Thank you. As we've always known, we have quite a treasure in Dave Barrett. He's just outstanding in the role that he plays in supporting and advocating for our students. We are just so fortunate. I mean, this donation Dave would have been completely instrumental in ensuring that came towards supporting our students. And Mark, thank you. You are the frontline teacher who is delivering these programs to our students. And we are so fortunate people like you doing that out there in our schools. And Thank you for that video. That was really fun to watch and for taking the time to do that. But just just a great presentation, and we are just so thankful to have both you in our system supporting our students the way you do. Thanks so much.
Oh, I love the way Mark left in the oops too. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was brilliant.
Well, thank you. When Dave comes calling you on your cell phone asking for something, if I don't do it right away, I'll forget about it. So, and he's the guy that gets us all sorts of great stuff. So, I'm very thankful for Dave. I absolutely agree with your comment. He's pivotal. We were just talking today how he's our liaison with all the other tech teachers doing what we're doing. Which is a very important role. I know it's not one of his written down roles, but it's a very important one. And we always appreciate him every time we get together, skills or just emails or whatever. So, and this CWB thing it's been good. It's been a long time coming, but it's nice because it's one of the first industry groups to really step forward in a meaningful way, as well as the auto workers union, the iron workers union. The unions have kind of skip over a lot of the technological ed programs, in my opinion. So it's good to see one come to fruition. And I know that they were trying to train the trainers. Dave was involved. We went down to Sacred Heart in Walkerton, did a train the trainer with the guys from CWB. And then at Georgian, Tim Wise was key in that, and Mike McCormick over at Sacred Heart. And those are really valuable, incredibly valuable sessions that are very rare. So we really got a lot out of that, leading to standardized assessment stuff.
I think you froze up, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to go on. I see student trustee Wall had a question, and we'll hope Mr. Klunder unfreezes in the process.
So this is a very interesting piece of equipment. I had a conversation with a student about it, and I came out of it wondering if there were any safety concerns, because obviously the simulation is not the same as real life. And I was wondering if there's any effort that's being put, or what effort is being put towards making sure that students don't pick up on bad habits.
Well, so I can address that. Well, like anything, they need guided practice, right? So you got to tell them, they're welding something, they're leaning on it with their hand. That's a common one, right? So, well, you can't do that in real welding. So it's not to replace, it's to supplement. It's also to inspire and get interest, and it's very accessible technology. So that's why it's in the hallway. It's there, when things change and we are able to be in person, grade 8s can come, other groups can come and use it and get an experience. It's pretty cool. It's something out of the ordinary, I think.
And some of the research we did on it, it's very interesting, is we're going to track consumables, metal, gas, wire, those types of things, because as Mark talked about, that muscle memory, you build that on the simulator, and these are real live simulations. This one's better than the other ones that some of the trustees have tried before that I have on my SOS trailer. This is kind of 3 tiers above that. But that leads to better welders and reduced costs. And there's study after study that proves that we researched into when we looked at doing this.
It's a pretty impressive machine technologically, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. Trustee Dawson?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I have a comment. This has been a really exciting presentation, and I think the trades in blue water are really growing substantially. I'm reminded of the gift by Ford Motor to Grey Highlands in terms of engine parts and transmission. So we're seeing that in more than one area. So thank you to both of you and all involved in presenting this report.
Thank you.
If I don't see any other questions at the moment, so Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, thank you. I was just thinking it because this is in some different schools. Have you thought about having a virtual competition between the schools in terms of putting up their best welders? And just wondered.
Definitely. Some schools are actually borrowing our other SOS trailer ones and running in-school competitions. And the fun part with that is they're seeing students who have never darkened the door of a shop before give it a try. And the next thing you know, they're signing up for their SHSM. So it's definitely something we're looking at. We also have our real welding competition. We don't want to take away from that either. So one is a great way to hook them, and another way is a great way to really get them landed and experienced in welding. But yes, that we are definitely on that path as well. Thank you.
I think there's many options with the machine too. Not just in a school like OS where there's a large tech department within close proximity, you get opportunity for a lot of movement of the machine. And so it's seeing other students just outside of, one course code. And like Dave said, with the SHSM, it's another thing. It's another criteria for them. It supplements what they're already doing or adds to it. So I think that it's a neat machine. I hope it holds up, and it's very impressive technologically. It's challenged me, and I don't want to say I'm old school, but I have muscle memory from welding, and I'm not the greatest welder, but it's like riding a bike kind of thing. So when you go on the machine and you do a challenging weld, it's challenging. So it's a lot of growth with the machine. So I do hope for sure that it sees a lot of students and more, and parents. We need to increase the awareness of parents about what a skilled trade lifestyle looks like. What are you doing? What's good? What's bad? That kind of thing.
Thank you.
So my question, I feel a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. Do you have anything in that bag for the kids that live outside of the schools that this technology is in? I was listing the schools, and I know we have some more rural schools that aren't listed in that resource. I know you are both big supporters of those smaller schools. I'm just wondering how we allow those students to also access this wonderful opportunity, or are they outside of the opportunity to access it?
No, not at all. So one of the things I want to stress about this partnership with the Canadian Welding Foundation Bureau, or Canadian Welding Bureau Foundation, Bruce Power, and UA Canada, this isn't just a one-off. They want to be with us for quite a while. So we're talking about other schools that weren't able to participate for various reasons. And we have mobile welders already. Some of you have seen them in our SOS trailer that we will be taking to those schools and offering to them. A big piece of this, and Mark touched on it, is the training of the teachers. For me to just send them a welding simulator and say, get on it, doesn't work. We need to find time to get them together, show them this. They'll come up with the power of how they engage their students with it, and we just book it to them just like we would any other piece of equipment in the Blue Water board.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that if I could. A little bit, and I think that's an important part. It's not a toy like the simulator is. It's the train the trainer, the CWB commitment. They provided us literally with graphical assessment templates for judging quality of welds. They're standardizing weld booths, standardizing procedures, and training the trainers. And these days, as you probably know, tech teachers aren't getting any younger. We're getting a bit sparse. So the opportunities to train those teachers who might be in a manufacturing classroom, let's say, but have more of an automotive or another trade background, it gives them the tools to not only assess and teach, but to feel comfortable to include that as part of their curriculum. Because like Dave said, welding's just a way of fastening metal. It has a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
Thank you. And my follow-up, is the quadmester system does it make it more accessible for some of our students from other schools to join a different school for their one particular course that's of interest to them than if we went back to our regular system?
I wouldn't mind addressing that if I may, just because I'm in there. So I would agree. I do a course evaluation at the end of every course, and we talk, and the students prefer by far and large, this setup for an experiential classroom or a technological education classroom, because we can work on larger projects. You know, we're not cleaning up every 75 minutes, so you can form more groups and group learning as well as individual learning, because you're going to take on larger projects, and those projects often have more meaning for students rather than making the same bird feeder kind of thing over and over again. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positives. I've only had a couple people that didn't like it, but it's because it didn't suit their co-op wishes, that kind of thing. But I like it, but I don't know how it's gonna. It's not up to me.
Thank you, Trustee Dawson.
Yeah, thank you. Your question, Trustee Thompson, twigged something in my mind. Now that we switched to remote learning, how will that impact the program?
Mark, that's you again, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the throes of it. I've been looking at a screen for 3 days, and in short, it's not ideal. It sucks, really, for experiential programs, to put it bluntly. Students don't sign up for these courses to do it remotely. And of course, that makes sense, but makes the delivery very hard when you use a project-based delivery method. Students can only take so much theory without the tie-in. It's not rocket science. They need hands-on, and so it does make it challenging, but we have grown. I know a comment earlier in the reflection was how much we've grown as a staff, and we've had to adapt and put new thoughts to the same subject. So it's been an opportunity to look at what's fundamental and how we can deliver that as best we can. But it's not ideal, for sure.
I just have one final question. Do you think we have students that are missing out on the full range of tech programs under our current circumstances?
I'll address that again. I think if it continues, we're going to see that to be more true. I think when we have students that don't have supports, we're not there to support them, to be their coach and their teacher. So we're losing some kids because our circle of influence is very narrow. So that is unfortunate, because those students would succeed enough in an experiential classroom, and then they would also be able to form identity about problem solving and overcoming challenges with guidance and coaching, and we're missing that. So I don't know if that answers your question. There's lots of students that do very well, but yeah, we're losing some.
Thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. I wish all of our students in the board, I know our geography poses challenges, but I wish they all had the same. I look at a teacher such as yourself and know your commitment and your talents, and I wish our kids all could join in and have the opportunity to have your teaching, because we can't replicate the U's in the system all through our board. So thank you very much. It's been very enlightening, and I just wish we could figure out a way that all our kids benefit from that.
Well, this is one place where I'd like to jump in as well, because Mark is an exceptional teacher, and we have a lot of exceptional teachers, particularly in the tech department. It is a privilege to work with them. They know their stuff, and they're bristling under online learning because they're hands-on people themselves. They want to do the projects and make those connections with kids. I don't think we definitely have barriers where some schools don't have all the shop opportunities. That's a geography thing and understandable. But I would be hard pressed to find a tech teacher that isn't as passionate as Mark, but maybe in a different area, because they'll start talking auto with Mark and he'll just discount them because he's not interested in auto. He's a manufacturing guy, and the auto guys all get together. But the passion that you see in them and what they bring to the table makes it easier for me, because that's what I'm always asking. What do you need to do? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? It's not what do you want. What do you need to make your program better? And when they respond, if someone phones and says, here's some money, help welding, I'm going to say yes and start talking to, my superintendent and director and saying, can we do this? Let's get it done. So yeah, we have
Sorry, I'm having some
teachers
technology
across this board,
issues. Sorry.
yeah. So I
Can
don't
I
think
speak to, I missed, sorry, I cut out there, but
I was just
I'd
praising you,
agree.
Mark. You're okay.
I want to just second your motion of the teachers. It's amazing when we do get together. I can tell you there is no more fun group of people than when us tech teachers get together, especially skills. We have so much fun. There's what a group of characters that bring a lot to a classroom. And so those times are so rare and important, but I agree. And being an alumni of BPDS and Lansing, the staff there is brilliant. Like, they're really lucky in those communities for sure.
Yeah,
but I would like to see more cooperation, and it has nothing to do with the teachers or the students. They're willing. It's just the pragmatic aspect of getting there and sharing. I to speak to that, I worked in Wyerton for several years, and great school, great community, and great staff. With the JK to 12 situation, the opportunity for cross-pollinating of students was great, and I think all the schools that have that model, there's an opportunity there, and if we can't run programs in one community, and we should, as best we can, try to find a way. And I think the time, I'm not in that role, but the timetabling that the administrators have is a very hard task, and I know that, so I don't want to assume to know it's not, but it would be really nice to see more collaboration. All the teachers would be willing, that's for sure. So
I appreciate your comments. I'm struck all the time about your skill, your passion, what you want to offer the kids. And I wish every kid and every student in our board had the opportunity to find the expertise that mattered to them in our board, regardless of geography. And I know that's a tall ask, but I think it's something that's important to all of us. So thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
I know.
Thank you. It was moved by Trustee Atkinson, seconded by Trustee Dawson, that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Skilled Trades Welding Learning Opportunities Report for information. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. There are no delegations this evening. So next, I would like to invite Vice Chair Jan Johnstone to speak to our Committee of the Whole, to speak to our recommendations from the Committee of the Whole Board report from April 6th to 2021.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm just going to put the motions on the floor to require a seconder. That the Blue Water District School Board approve that Kincardine District senior school students participate in the outdoor education field trips, Bruce Trail Hike, May 21st and May 28th, 2021, Wild Fang Canoe Trip, June 15th, June 16th, June 21st and June 22nd, 2021, Saugeen River Canoe Trip, June 17th and June 23rd, 2021, contingent that they align with COVID-19 protocols at the time of departure. So are you moving it as the second, Trustee Thompson?
I am.
Excellent. Okay. So is there any questions or comments? Trustee Atkinson. So no. Okay, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. The next one, that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 1408-D, Privacy and Information Management, formally Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, delegation, as revised for system use, and that the Blue Water District School Board rescind Board Policy BP 1409-D privacy policy. I'm moving that and looking for somebody to second that. I see Trustee McComb. Is there any comments, questions concerning that? Trustee Atkinson? No. Okay, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Next, that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 3301-D, naming of school and board facilities as revised for system use. I'm looking for someone to second. I see Trustee Dawson. Thank you. Any additional comments, questions concerning that? Trustee Morgan.
Thank you, Chair Johnstone. I would just like to comment again that perhaps the people who are watching this would like to know that we have discussed these motions at length before, and they're just coming before the board as approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any further questions or comments. All in favor? And that is approved. Thank you. And this is the last motion to come before you, that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 1411-D accessibility standards as revised for system use. I'm looking for somebody second. I see Trustee Thompson. Is there any further comments or discussion concerning that? I see none. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much, and that is the report.
Thank you very much. So next is our Committee of the Whole Board, April 6th. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder. That we have two motions coming out of that report. But first I'll invite Trustee Dawson to speak to the report, and then I will put the motions on the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Just looking for my file here. Just give me a sec, please. Here we go. The Business Committee of the Whole Board met on Tuesday, April 6th, 2021, and there was a number of items that came before the committee, including one item for decision regarding rural and northern education funding eligible schools. And that came about the fact that we have Georgian Bay Community School has been renamed, and as a result, we have to add it as a list of schools eligible for rural and northern education, and that recommendation will be coming up shortly. We also received 3 items for information. We received a report and presentation summarizing the results of the 2021 budget public consultation survey. There was a good response to the survey. However, the number of respondents was down from previous years. However, the information provided will provide good information for trustees going forward regarding setting the budget for next year. We also received the 2021 school renewal report regarding capital funding and an overview of the capital funding projects and locations for investment. Numerous projects were presented, including major and some minor updates across the district. We also received a follow-up on the trustee expenses, and the committee received a report detailing the funding allocation associated with trustee expenditures and honorariums. A recommendation regarding this report will be tabled shortly. We also received an update on Georgian Bay Community School, and progress at the time of the report was going well on the new build. And there was also a report regarding the Beavercrest Community School project, and that project is moving forward. Thank you. That is my report.
Thank you, Trustee Dawson. So we have 2 motions coming out of that report. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder. First, that the Blue Water District School Board approve adding Georgian Bay Community School Elementary and Secondary replacement to the list of schools eligible for the Rural and Northern Education Fund allocation. It's moved by Trustee Dawson, seconded by Trustee Morgan. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And our next motion is that the Blue Water District School Board approve that trustees be compensated $50 per month per trustee for home internet expenses for the 2020-2021 school year. Moved by Trustee Dawson, seconded by Trustee Atkinson. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So I would like to invite Vice Chair Jan Johnstone to speak to the report coming out of the Committee of the Whole Board in camera for April 20th, 2021.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. So I'm just going to put the motions on the floor, and it's moved by myself, and I'll be looking for someone to second them. That the agenda of the April 20th, 21 Committee of the Whole Board and Camera meeting be deemed to meet the legislative requirements for discussion in camera. I see that Trustee Thompson has seconded it. All in favor, because... And thank you, and that's approved. And I just want to make a comment here because it is a report and motions coming out of Committee of the Whole in private. Any discussion was happened in private, and we don't have those discussion in public because it is a Committee of the Whole in camera. So next, that the Blue Water District School Board ratify the Memoranda of Settlement with Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, FO Blue Water Local for the period September 1st, 2019 to August 31st, 2022, which was ratified by the union membership on April 8th, 2021. And looking for someone to second, please. Thank you, Trustee Atkinson. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And the last is that the moved by Trustee Johnstone that the Blue Water District School Board ratify the memorandum of a settlement with Ontario Secondary Teachers Federation, OSSTF, District 7, vocational teachers for the period of September 1st, 2019 to August 31st, 2022, pending ratification by the union membership. Thank you, Trustee McComb. All in favor? And that has carried, and thank you very much, and my report is complete.
Thank you very much. Are there any notices of motions this evening? Trustee Lutz?
Yes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, so I believe I just read my notice of motion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And just before I start, I just want to tell everyone I'm having a pretty bad seizure day, but I do have my babysitter with me, so you don't have to worry. He knows the drill, so don't panic and just don't worry about it. Yeah, so I can go ahead now. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew there was no need to panic. So anyways, to get on with business. So notice of motion is in regards to access to free menstrual products for students in Blue Water District School Board schools. Whereas lack of access due to economic factors, often referred to as period poverty, impacts people who menstruate around the world and can be especially damaging at puberty when school interactions are crucial to a student's development And whereas menstruation is not always predictable and can be a great source of anxiety for students, especially when products are not readily available in washrooms where they would need them. And whereas 1/3 of people who menstruate under the age of 25 in Canada struggle to afford menstrual products, and 70% of people who menstruate say they have missed work or school due to their period. And whereas menstrual hygiene products are not a luxury product and are necessary and essential to menstrual health, comfort, and participation in work, school, and society, and whereas all other necessary sanitary supplies are already supplied in washrooms such as soap, toilet paper, and water, and whereas in some cases free menstrual products are provided to students only at a student's request, which invades student privacy, and whereas the products currently provided in some of our schools are provided by school administration or individual teachers or staff, and may be funded by charitable donations or private generosity, and not guaranteed as a right to students, and many students are unaware of where and how to access the products at their schools. And whereas the Toronto Youth Cabinet has issued a joint statement on promoting menstrual equity in Ontario schools and has invited all 72 Ontario school boards to advocate for access to free menstrual products, therefore be it resolved, 1, that the Blue Water District School Board requests staff to submit a report to the board that outlines how schools are presently providing period products to students and the costs associated with providing students for schools with students grade 4 and up with free menstrual products in our schools. And 2, that Blue Water District School Board requests staff to work with schools to ensure students grade 4 and up have equitable access to menstrual products at point of use in a way that protects student privacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lutz. So for all trustees to remember, this will come back to us at our meeting in May. Thank you very much. Committee establishment and appointments. There are no committee establishments or appointments this evening. And our reports for information, our Student Senate report, I would like to invite Student Trustee Wall to present.
Hello, everybody. Can I be seen and heard?
You can. Welcome.
All right. Thank you. So the Student Senate has continued to keep in contact with the student body and to ensure that Blue Water student voice is heard. Despite everything that's happening, we are all working our hardest to make sure that that happens. And the biggest topic that we hear every time from students time and time again is the quadmester system. And while we understand that it is necessary to limit the spread of COVID-19 in our schools, and we're super thankful for the comparatively low numbers that we are facing, the system has a variety of effects on student well-being and student success. We had a discussion where every senator brought forth their opinions and the opinions of the students that they represent. And we had a big long talk about the quad system. It has pros and cons depending on the student, and also importantly depending on the course. Math and science courses seem to be especially difficult with the quad system because of the increased pace and the density of material, and especially the speed at which classes present. There were a lot of talks where you'd have a new unit and then a test, and if you were gone or just had a few off days, then you're already behind, and it's really hard to catch that up. That being said, the quad system can also work very well for some people some of the time. There were a couple students that expressed that they very much enjoy the increased focus and the accessibility of teachers in the quad system, where everything is focused on 1 or 2 classes. and since there was so much discussion on this topic, we decided to reach out to the student body properly to understand, more fully how students are handling the quadmesters. And so Student Senator Alexis Hollister very graciously volunteered to set up a Microsoft form that we'll distribute. And we had this discussion before we switched to online. There should be minimal difficulties in doing it even when we're online, as it can be done all through a computer, which is very nice. After that discussion, we had another productive talk about policy concerning what students wear. It became clear that the dress codes of some schools perhaps have not been revisited or revised to bring them up to date. There was concern that some of these policies can be unfair and outdated, and that's something that we're concerned that there's some equity issues that need to be addressed when revisiting a school's dress code, which is what we hope to do. Both in policy and enforcement, the dress code is almost always disproportionately focused on controlling women's individuality and expression. As well, there are a number of people who may not identify as either a young man or a young woman, or as a gender other than what they were assigned at birth. And as we look into this, as we have this discussion, we look into revisiting dress codes, it's hoped that we can encourage these policies to be rewritten to be genderless and applicable to all. In addition, there can be problems that arise when a student has been told that what they're wearing is not acceptable, not allowed, but they simply cannot afford to purchase new attire that is in accordance with policy. So to alleviate this equity issue, it's important that expectations are made very clear to students and parents before the school year begins, so that they can purchase clothing that can be worn at school and that is in accordance with the code. And next, the dress code policy is often inequitable to certain body types. The dress code applies differently to different people with different body types, and allowances need to be made for that. And this is a tricky problem, but it's important. And especially when it comes to enforcement of dress code in younger elementary students, which, while it's absolutely necessary in some extreme cases, it can also be very damaging to a student's self-esteem and their developing perception of themselves. While these things can be innocuous from the outside, the impact that these things have on someone can be very large. And I was really touched by some stories that were shared on that. So to wrap things up, we've had a lot of discussion on this sensitive topic, and we hope that our work to modernize and reevaluate the policy surrounding students' clothing will increase student well-being and mental health. And that is all.
Thank you very much. Do trustees have questions? Trustee Atkinson, followed by Trustee Morgan.
More so a comment. Trustee Wall, I want to thank you for addressing the dress code. I have had several students reach out to me over the last 6 weeks regarding dress code and equity and fairness between schools. So I just want to say thank you to you and the Senate for looking into this a little further. It is, I believe it's a much needed topic to be discussed.
Thank you. Trustee Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say to Trustee Wall that was an absolutely terrific report. It was so in-depth and lots of topics covered, and I'm sure you guys are doing lots of work. Thank you very much.
I appreciate those words very much. Thank you. This was, it's something very new to me and something that I'm not, something that I'm learning, and I appreciate your words.
trustees have any other comments? I would like to make a comment. I am very, very impressed with your very thoughtful, pragmatic, and authentic work. You guys are working under very unusual circumstances. This is the first, well, we're all working under very unusual circumstances, but for you, first group of senators and trustees that have worked entirely virtually, and you have really accomplished a lot. I think you should feel very proud of yourself, and you've just pushed the dial forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That means a lot.
So we're now moving on to our school update, the staff reports. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board received the school update report for information. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee McComb, seconded by Trustee Morgan, and I would like to welcome Superintendent of Education Elliott.
Good evening, everyone. I am very pleased to begin the school update report this evening. Since we submitted this report, as you are well aware, there's been a lot happening in education. So although there were very few bullets tonight, we'll have a lot to talk about in our update report. As Chair Thompson mentioned in her reflection tonight, this is the third time that we've had to pivot to remote learning, and we have adapted and we have built capacity, and it has been a much more smooth transition. I noticed in our Senate meeting tonight, the students felt the same way, that it went much more smoothly this time. So I just wanted to talk about a few things that are to update you. One is vaccinations. On Wednesday, April the 14th, we were provided with 1,115 vaccine appointments to provide to education staff. We were able to work with our ICT department and our human resources department to really optimize these invitations with an opt-out process, and we were able to stretch them to invite 1,500 teachers, educational assistants, early childhood educators, and administrators. And this also includes these direct support teachers and EAs that are working with our students with complex special education needs. And we are currently waiting on confirmation from Public Health on when the next session will occur so that we can complete all staff vaccinations. It's important to note that in the provincial plan, Educator Vaccines are scheduled to begin mid-May. They were scheduled to begin June 1st. So we are very pleased that Grey Bruce Public Health has prioritized education workers in our area and is working hard to provide the vaccines to us as soon as possible. We did have a scheduled vaccine clinic that we had scheduled, but were not yet able to book for last weekend. But unfortunately, Public Health needed to reallocate their staff to do case management due to the surge in cases locally. So we're just waiting on word of when we can book that date and get the rest of our staff completed. As far as the return to remote learning, preparations are well underway to support students with our highest needs, special education needs for in-person learning once again, as we did in January. And so through consultation with staff, those students with special education needs who cannot participate in remote learning have been invited to attend in person. It's important to note that most students with special education needs will be learning remotely and effectively during this period. And we will be collecting data related to in-person attendance to the ministry that includes the students attending and the staff working with them at the end of each week. And we're just working now to collect the first week's data. In the area of screening, daily on-site confirmation of self-screening is required for all of the in-person learners during this remote learning period. And then as far as asymptomatic testing, we continue with our asymptomatic testing hub model. We have to date run 3 sessions inviting over 5,000 students and their families. We have conducted 50 tests and have had no positive results, which is very positive. And our next session will be this Thursday, April 22nd in Owen Sound, and our sessions continue until June 3rd. that is my portion of the report. If anyone would like to ask questions, that would be great, and then we'll pass it on to Superintendent Lefebvre.
Any questions for Superintendent Elliott? Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, thank you very much. My question to you, Superintendent Elliott, is has to do with special education students in school learning, and wondering if any the staff who are working with students in person, although they could have been vaccinated, but have concerns about the vaccine not being as full strength or even partial strength. You know, it takes like a couple of weeks. Is there any concerns being expressed by staff or even by students and / their parents in terms of that? And how are we dealing with that?
Thank you. Through the chair, I haven't had any concerns expressed directly to me. We have a history of being able to offer in-person learning to students with special education needs. As you know, we did so in January, and with our layers of protection, including the mandatory self-screening prior to arrival at school, masking, hand washing, social distancing where possible. We are able to and have demonstrated that we can keep schools safe. Vaccines are certainly something that we are very much looking forward to for all staff, but as you mentioned, they have only had one vaccine. It has been within the 2-week period, so we wouldn't be able to rely on the efficacy of the vaccine at this point. We do need to ensure and remind staff to keep the layers of protection in force so that we can keep staff and students safe.
Thank you.
Any other questions from trustees? Thank you. I don't see any, so Superintendent Lefebvre.
Thank you very much. I'm just, I had wanted to bring you some information with respect to return to remote learning. So I know that Superintendent Elliott talked about our students with special needs. I just want to let you know that the announcement on April break did provide the senior team with some time to plan last week for our return to school yesterday. We sent out documents to support both the pedagogical move to online learning, but also documentation was sent from ICT to help support the distribution of all the technology within the district. What I did today was I asked several administrators within my area about our third and latest shift to remote learning, just to gather some feedback to share with you. Some of the positives that I heard from them, they found it was great to see the kids again and see their smiling faces underneath their masks. The parents were extremely grateful for the emergency childcare that's in place in a lot of our schools, and that's been extremely helpful for those who can access it. They are also very impressed with the smooth process for loaning out equipment and the booking of time slots. Parents made many comments about that. Parents have been extremely considerate and respectful of the protocols that we have in place for technology pickup. So that's been wonderful. There's also a huge comfort level. Staff are far more comfortable, and principals commented a lot about a lot less stress on our staff with respect to moving to the online platform, and their technology skills are just much enhanced. They've also made several comments about our ICT department and how they've really stepped up to answer the heat tickets and address issues in a really timely manner. And those who are actively engaged before, one principal called them, they're now rock stars when it comes to online learning, that students have really stepped it up. Some of the challenges, not to say that everything has been positive, there certainly are some challenges that we're facing as well. Especially with our larger families, we're able to provide one, possibly two devices in some cases for some of our larger families. They still find it inequity there, and they're finding it difficult to be able to manage in some of those cases, but we simply do not have enough devices to be able to hand out one device for every student. Students also want to be in school. The overall message, and I think this is something that came out from Mr. Klunder's presentation as well, it's not just our technology students and our hands-on students. A lot of our students want to be in person. So overall, there's kind of mixed excitement about online learning. I did receive some positives in regards to students excited about online learning again and being able to snuggle up in their pajamas and turn on the video camera and be able to participate in class. We also have some parents that continue to struggle with technology despite all the supports that we have in place. And the biggest one is probably about the struggling with the balance of working at home with remote learning, and just the balance between them having to work at home as well as their students working at home, and being able to navigate all of those pieces within under the same roof. There are a number of parents that are opting for asynchronous learning just to help balance the work demands at home, and that's understandable as well. So those certainly are some of the challenges that came out in my in the comments and discussions that I had with principals today. And I thought what was probably the most astute comment came from a parent at one of our schools who said that, quote, kindergartners unmuted on Teams is the kind of joy and chaos medicine the world needs right now. And it's true. When you listen to a group of kindergartners on Teams interacting with their teacher, it is a joy to hear. So that is my report with respect to our return to remote learning, and I would welcome any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Do trustees have questions? I see Trustee Lutz.
Yes, I just have a question, because I know a lot of parents, I'm hearing this from a lot, are struggling, as Superintendent LaFave said, just with the time and struggle of trying to be in many, many places all at the same time, and no, cloning does not exist, sadly. Trust me, I've tried. Or wish I could. I don't know what the answer is. Sorry, I spent my day doing grade 4 when I should have been working. And I know one of the challenges I'm hearing from parents is that when they're asking about alternate options, when they acknowledge they are overwhelmed and struggling, the response has unilaterally been that they can go online, print off find the work, print it off, complete it with their children, and then scan it all in and email it all back. I don't know how many others on this meeting have done that. I have been doing that every time. How many times have we been online now? 3?
3.
It is an arduous to near impossible task. And when you ask a parent who is near or at their breaking point to do that, let's just say that is beyond the straw that breaks the camel's back. That we might be needing to find alternative options than the fine print scan email, because I have one child and couldn't do it while working. I've heard from parents with more than one child, and they don't know what to do. And that is what they're reaching out to me saying. And so my question is, what are the other options for people who want their kids to be in school, want an option, and they want something that's doable when they are working 12-hour shifts in essential jobs and don't know what to do? Thank you.
Thank you, and through the chair. Trustee Lutz, I hear what you're saying, and I think that I probably echo the sentiment for many people within the province and across Canada and across the world. They are enduring a lot of hardship, and I really appreciate all of the work that you're doing with your child in order to help them navigate the online learning world. And I know for some parents, and I've talked to parents of with 2 or 3 or 4 children, and trying to navigate exactly what is required. I would say probably the most important thing is to reach out to the educator and talk with that educator about. So you're the classroom teacher. Reach out to that classroom teacher and ask what is it that is essential that needs to be completed at this time, because and I think it is okay for you to say we are unable to accomplish all of this work. What is absolutely essential for us to complete? And try to narrow that down. I would hope and expect that a lot of our educators would be able to identify what some of those essential pieces are and be able to communicate that to you. Does that help?
I'm not sure I have a nice, kind answer for that, but without throwing anyone under the bus, let's just say that is not what the response many parents have been getting. And
okay, thank you.
I will leave it at that, but that is not what is going out to our parents.
Thank you.
Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you. It's basically a 2-part question. So the first part is it has to do with when and students going back online this week, and who would they contact if they went online for a class and the teacher didn't show up, so there's nothing there in their online class that they were expecting. So what would be the procedure for them and what for them to follow? And number 2 is that I think that it would be great for us to actually maybe consider doing a survey with parents. I mean, we all understand everybody's in the same plague situation, but there's also workers who are essential workers who have children at home, and they might have, they are the only parent, and they might be in a situation of losing their job because of not they're supposed to be at a place of work, but they don't have care for their children. So I think that there's a part here where for us as a school board is we need to also know how our parents are doing, and maybe there's some suggestions, and maybe that's also feedback for the government.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll address the first question with respect to if someone was to log on and find that the teacher was not there. I'm not sure whether perhaps it was a broken link or the teacher put the incorrect link on there. Perhaps they're in another Teams meeting. I know that's happened even with some of our trustees on some of our meetings. We've been in the wrong room at times. Sometimes those things can happen. And certainly those technical glitches do happen, and I would suggest that they reach out to the teacher via email is probably the best way. And if they're struggling to contact the teacher, to reach out to the principal at the school and contact the principal through the school email address or the principal's email directly.
So would they have that information? Like, is that given to them? Superintendent Lefebvre, like, other words, you're talking about that it could be a student who is in grade 7 or grade 8, that might not readily know those procedures. Is that information that they actually have that they would know to go to?
So through the chair, that information is found on each of the schools' websites. So every school has a website, and the information, the school email address is found on those websites. So that communication goes directly to the principal and the office staff.
Okay, my suggestion is that each student should be verbal, through teams or whatever, told that information, like, because I think that you're adding some complexity for some students that would be difficult to actually think about. So it's kind of like, here's the information if your teacher's not here, and here's the principal, so they're not trying to navigate somewhere else.
Thank you. I can take that recommendation away. Thank you.
And then my second comment to do with parents and essential workers, and I represent people who work at Bruce Power who may have to actually go in the plant. They can't work from home to operate that plant.
Right. Sorry, and I didn't hear the question.
Well, it had to do with is how are, there are parents who, and I use Bruce Power, but it could be a grocery store or anything where, this plague has gone on for so long that they don't have any more, if they're lucky, like Bruce Power, to have sick days or off days, but they have to go in and operate the plant. These are operators, and they might be single parents. In this situation, I know it is a single parent. They don't have anybody else. So, I heard you mention something about childcare, but there's a whole situation. I'm just saying is that they're really concerned about losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
An employer can be very understanding, but at some point that maybe that understanding is missing. I'm just saying is it would probably be great if we started maybe doing some kind of survey, because I think the province needs to know about this. And that's what's my question and also my comment. So whether it's synchronous or asynchronous learning is not going to help that parent with a child care problem.
So if the question is about asynchronous learning, that's certainly, I know I've worked through some difficult conversations with parents and situations where they've opted for asynchronous learning, and they might actually only be able to work with a child at the end of the day, at the end of a long day. They might be able to download some work and be able to do some work with that child. They might only submit that work once a week even. That's fine. That is okay. If that's what they're able to manage, and for their well-being, that is what is manageable for that family and that child, then that is okay.
I understand that it's a child care problem. That's really what it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
I saw students trustee Wall's hand, but I don't see it anymore. Go ahead.
Sorry, I must have taken that off. I just wanted to say that there are a lot of different responses to going back online from each student has something different. I would like to say, from what I have heard, this is not it's not new anymore. So while it's not necessarily easier, it is more understood. So there is less stress on that. That being said, it is still difficult, and I would just like to say that it's not as novel anymore.
Thank you. Trustee Miller.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I think, just to be succinct, it is worth exploring Trustee Johnstone's suggestion that perhaps PIC or somebody get a pulse of how parents are coping with this, especially if you're looking to introduce it as a new norm. I think that's a worthwhile exercise, and maybe PIC could be involved in that in some capacity. That's first. The second thing is to talk a little bit more about something Katie mentioned. Sorry, Trustee Lutz, that this notion of parents having to print, download, when we talk about inequity and not enough technology to go around, those sorts of things are predicated on families having printers, fax machines, scanners, all of those things at home, which with a stay-at-home order, which is not always the case. So I understand that we can't have one platform, one unifying platform, because there's issues with teachers being able to access different things, and efforts have been made to try to work towards that. But perhaps there is an opportunity to have a platform for parents that's outside the scope of the teaching arena that could perhaps be unified across, so that parents have a single point to access to monitor and support their child's academic achievements and success, where it was a little bit easier to navigate and one point of access. I know that might mean that teachers have to upload to more than one place, but with things like DocuSign and online forms and all of the leaps and bounds in technology that has done to facilitate going paperless, which is better for the environment, this sort of notion of having to do all of this seems to me a bit archaic, and surely with all the clever people that we have working on these things, we can figure something out for families. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Lutz?
Thank you. And just going back to a couple things. A lot has been said about families doing what they can, and a lot has been said by Superintendent Lefebvre that is very different than what I'm hearing from families. That I think we need to make sure there's some consistent messaging, and I don't know how that would happen, but like I heard from someone this week that was told that the only acceptable option for asynchronous learning would be to submit work every single day for all of her children. And that is very different than what you're saying. So again, there is inconsistent messaging. And the other thing I wanted to say about we really need a clear, consistent communication to go out, because there was talk about what to do when your teacher doesn't show up. We've had that happen multiple times, and let me tell you, when there's a group of nine-year-olds and the teacher doesn't show up, it is quite funny to listen to what happens as parents. Even stranger when a couple parents start offering to teach the class. Let me tell you, very strange things happen. So there should actually be a plan in place to explain to students what to do. And the one thing I do want to point out is that I believe I remember speaking to Jamie, I think it was a year or two ago, that actually at one point the general school emails on the websites didn't work, at least on some of them, because I was getting my trustee email was the only one that worked on a couple of the websites. So before we say, oh, just email those emails, we need to actually make sure they work. So it's just really important to make sure that not only do students and parents, because depending on the age, it depends who would be the ones taking care of these things. Not only do they have a clear understanding of who to contact in different situations, but also we need to make sure the lines of communication, like, so if they go to click on an email link, that it actually does work. And I know this is a lot of work, but I remember working with Jamie to make sure that emails did work, and I was like, I found the mistake just due to happenstance the one time. Anyways, so yeah, we need to really make sure there's some clear, consistent communication about all these things. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that comment, and Trustee Lutz, I'll take those recommendations away with me. And I guess just on the topic of communications, I guess I would just really emphasize, if anyone is communicating with you and they do have an issue or a concern, then please direct them back to the school principal, and they can address those concerns in a timely manner. Thank you.
Trustee Miller, I still see your hand. Is that just not gone down, or you have another comment? That just went down. Thank you, everyone. That was an interesting conversation. And if there's no further comments or questions with related to that, I think our next presenter is Superintendent Penner-Lipset.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I have just a short update to share with you this evening from the program department, Learning Services program. If you recall, last time I believe we gave you a brief update about summer school, in that the program team is busy planning for summer school. A further update for you this week is we've just received our confirmation about our CODE summer learning program. So CODE, being the Council of Ontario Directors of Education, provides separate funding for a program called Summer Learning. And this program is for elementary age students focused on mathematics and or literacy programs. And so we have received our confirmation of funding just this past week for that again. So we're busy planning for those programs as well. And in terms of the move to remote learning, the program team is also busy supporting teachers, helping to answer questions. Superintendent Lefebvre mentioned pedagogy, so that's where our team steps in to support teachers with curriculum and lesson planning and assessment. So that's my brief update this evening. Thank you.
Trustees have any questions? I see Trustee Atkinson and then Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you. Could synchronous learning, could you please explain to me again the I've just lost my train of thought, excuse me. Could you go to Trustee Johnstone?
Absolutely, and we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Trustee Johnstone?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Superintendent Penner-Lipset. I just wanted to say your name because I like it so much. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly if you're able to answer me this question, but you're talking about program and funding and things like that, and I know that a few years ago we had included in our budget that there'd be a bit of money for basically teachers to apply to this fund we had created. They had some specialized program or little program they wanted to basically kind of test out, and that it had been very well received from teachers, you know, just say they wanted to try some kind of program. Do you know if that we were still doing that? And I'm just wondering, particularly, you know, kind of because we've gone online, back and forth, but, you know, for online, that there might have been some very creative teachers who had applied for that, who were wanting to kind of maybe try some different kinds of little bit of programs and just need a little bit of funding.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think I know one of the funds you're referring to, Trustee Johnstone. We called it our Innovation Fund. So, and we put an application out to schools so that school teams, teachers could submit to request funds. And that actually does lie with Superintendent Lefebvre's portfolio, I believe, although we end up, of course, working together in our teams. And so I'm not sure, Superintendent Lefebvre, if you have an update on where those projects would be at this time?
There were a number, I believe we had 12 projects that we approved this year, and they ranged quite a bit in terms of the variety of projects that we have in place. A lot of them, they found it very difficult to be able to implement fully because we were only back in person for so long, and we've had a few breaks in between. I don't have an update in terms of progress on that, but that is something that I could bring to in the future.
And thank you. And yes, I just wanted to say, particularly since we went online too, there might have been, you know, teachers who put in for something they wanted to kind of test drive, some kind of, online program that would be really helpful to our students and of course the board. So thank you.
Yeah, and I will just add, Trustee Johnstone, the other fund, not so much that teachers necessarily apply to, but through our Rural Northern Education Fund, you know, the RENF funding that we receive, schools do have an opportunity to use a little bit of that funding, and principals do put in proposals, and we had schools this year put in proposals for things like technology, additional equipment, things like that to support moving to remote learning. So that's another way.
Trustee Atkinson.
I apologize for my moment before. Could you please clarify for me the synchronous learning, what our organization expects from our students, time frame wise?
So the synchronous learning minutes, and my colleagues can jump in here. I know, again, Superintendent Lefebvre is quite versed in this from his remote school experience, but this is all laid out in the PPM 164. So there are a number of instructional minutes, as you know, that have to be met in a school day. And correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent Lefebvre, is it 250 minutes of synchronous learning or 240 minutes? 240 minutes of synchronous learning. That is technically required.
Okay, thank you. But I have another question, and I've had some emails regarding this question, so please bear with me. What is the expectation of the teacher who is also a parent trying to help their little ones teach their class, their virtual classroom, as well as their children at home?
Yeah, so teachers, this is a challenge. It kind of falls into that last discussion we were just having with the challenges that parents are facing when kids are at home and they're working from home. Teachers are required to meet the minutes in the PPM or the minutes of synchronous learning. Now, synchronous learning means the teacher is available to support students. It doesn't mean they're live necessarily on camera, like in this format, for that whole 240 minutes. It means they could assign tasks and they're available to answer questions or support students, or maybe have a one-to-one, side conversation if a student required support. But it doesn't mean they necessarily are, live on camera speaking in real time the entire time. So it is a challenge. There's no question, but it is what we're faced with right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? I see none, and I do believe it's Superintendent Cummings that follows.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. Can just a sound check, everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Good seeing everybody. I wanted to bring a brief update under this report with regards to some of the funding that we've been receiving. This one specifically, if you recall back to last autumn, on October 28th, the ministry offered out memo 2020 B20, which was the COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream Education Related, or as we are affectionately calling it now, CVRIS. CVRIS was focused on technology, air quality and ventilation, and the promotion of health and safety in our schools. This was a federal program implemented in partnership with the province. If you recall further that in November, we brought a business committee report to you that talked about the fast action that we had to do to get a submission in for this funding. It was a very tight timeline in order to get that in. So we're very happy that we're able to develop a proposal and submit that within the timelines. We have since been approved for the projects in an amount totaling nearly $3.5 million. Most of them are required to be completed by December 31st, 2021. So there's two shockers in that sentence. First of all, the amount, and second of all, the timeline to get this stuff accomplished. But the staff is up to the task, and they have started their work in terms of getting this done. Interestingly, it's been a really tough year. Certainly the financial support for our board has been, we are grateful for the amounts that we've received. At our next business committee meeting, you'll receive a report speaking more fully about the amounts we've received and in detail, but roughly we've received about $14 million from the provincial and federal governments to help out with COVID this year, which is, is great for a small board like ours to help us out. Back to CVRIS though, we had a total of 89 projects, all approved. They were broken down into a number of different investment eligible opportunities. So first of all, under technology, we received about almost $950,000 to look at improving the connectivity in our schools and updating and refreshing the network switching in our schools. And this goes a long way, within the school itself in terms of computers and devices on the network and making sure the response times are reliable, consistent, and speedy. It also goes in for our wireless as well and wireless devices outside of the school and that access, and is part of an overall general improved network. We received a $1.5 million grant for air quality, which is the new HVAC unit assigned for the West Wing at Hepworth Community School. This project alone will service about 50% of that school and will be a large undertaking for our staff. As you know, with the last report we brought on school renewal and school condition improvement, we seem to be getting decent funding for this, and of course another $1.5 million definitely helps. Hepworth was on our list to tackle as well. What we have a problem with is how
You've frozen, Superintendent Cummings.
find every which way that we
Superintendent Cummings, you have frozen from my end. I don't know if other people are having the same experience. I see a yes from Trustee Morgan.
Yep.
So I think perhaps we'll move on to Superintendent Tang.
I'll step in for a moment until Mr. Cummings is able to come back.
Okay, thank you.
A brief update tonight about masking on two fronts. As you'll note in the ministry information, the ministry is encouraging students that are attending to school to wear masks at this time. That can be very challenging for some of the students that are permitted to attend, as it's only students that really will not benefit or be able to participate in remote learning. But we've shared with administrators the ministry's information about some possible alternatives, a link to the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario for some further information about how to help students, and a suggestion that parents and even medical practitioners be part of the conversation about hoping that students can wear masks. And then the second piece has to do with masks for staff members. So you will have noted in the memo that there is a note that the masks required for people working with students with special needs during this closure period be the American Society for Testing Materials, ASTM, Level 2 masks. And I want to say thank you very much to our Health and Safety Department and Purchasing Department for some very quick research on the masks that have been procured through the ministry protective equipment procurement site. So we have, as of yesterday, shared the brands and models of masks that we have received that are in the schools, and told principals which ones are the ASTM Level 2 masks. In fact, all the masks we've received since December have met this standard, but there may be some masks received in the fall that wouldn't meet the standard, and we've asked them to be set aside for the moment. So looking to protect our students and staffs in both directions with the layer of protection, hopefully that double layer of protection if students are able to wear masks, and ensuring that the staff are wearing the masks as prescribed by the ministry in the latest memo.
Thank you. Do trustees have questions for Superintendent Tang? I understand Superintendent Cummings is back, so we'll go back to him in a moment. I see none. Thank you very much. So we'll go back to Superintendent Cummings.
Thank you, Chair Thompson. So please tell me that the last thing you recall me hearing was not, have I got news for you? And I have to redo the whole report, but certainly we're down in the air quality section, and we're certainly happy to receive that funding for that project. Under the health and safety part of the project, of the approved projects, we received about $1 million, and that's going to implement touchless bottle filling stations and touchless hand washing stations in all of our schools. And this does a number of things, of course. I mean, it improves the overall health and safety for our staff and students and visitors with less touches throughout the day on these things. We're also going to see some interior partitions to separate some of the classroom spaces go in. So all in all, I think we did very well. I believe all but one project that we submitted for was approved. So that was very good. And part of this is, we knew going into this, there would be a lot of questions from the people making the decisions, and we wanted to make sure that we were ready with answers upon anything. So we made a very concerted effort to respond to any questions the federal people or the ministry people had on our projects. We're very pleased to share this information with you. This is more good news for us. The downside, of course, is like you hate to be actually trying to get money to do this stuff, but at least it's helping us out a bit. So we're in a process now where the staff have developed the plans and sourced materials to try to meet the deadlines, and we'll look forward to bringing more updates to you as we progress through these projects. And I have a note saying go to Superintendent Tang, but I'm sure you've already heard her update. So
we did. Yes, thank you. Do trustees have questions? Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, that's really great news, and I understand the majority of the money that we actually received came from the feds, so that's good. My question, it was actually a comment because you were talking about technology, and I was just thinking about when I was thinking about my laptop and all the other trustees' laptop and how we haven't been to the board office since December, and it is now April. Should we not also be going to one of our closest schools to get the updates for our laptops? And
Rob is either thinking or frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen.
I believe, Trustee, I believe Superintendent Cummings is frozen again. I don't mind speaking on his behalf. We can certainly get in touch with ICT and let all of the trustees know whether that's indeed the case. I don't believe that you need to be within the Blue Water network for your computers to be up to date, but I may be mistaken. So we will get in touch with someone and then and get word out to you if you need to.
Okay, thank you, because I know prior to this last year, I was thinking that we were requested to go to your nearest Blue Water source and, update your laptop in the parking lot. So if it's changed, that's great news. Thank you.
Trustee Dawson?
Just as an aside to that, I had a password problem on my computer. So I contacted IT, I got an answer back very quickly, and they fixed it up remotely. But I also got another message suggesting that I go to a school site to update from a different IT person. So I don't know if that helps anybody or not.
I think what we will do is ask for some feedback on that, and trustees will get a message tomorrow on how to best handle that. And if there are no, Director Wilder.
Thank you. I just really have appreciated the conversation this evening, and I just wanted to comment that on April 9th, all members of the senior team left with great hopes that there would be a lovely April break for everyone. And so we should have predicted, because as has happened at Christmas and the summer, that didn't happen. So I just wanted to really acknowledge members of the senior team for working tirelessly last week on ensuring that we are back and up and running. They did a fabulous job. They were all there at the beck and call. That included the weekend before, the week, and then this past weekend. Just fabulous. I know that extends to, although we were trying to, for lack of a better word, protect our administrators and teachers, and by letting them, start focusing on things this past Monday, we do know that there were some who just couldn't do that and were working as well. Thank you to all of them. Our union partners were engaged as well. But the senior team is just outstanding, and I am just so fortunate to work with these people. Part of the conversation that we're hearing this evening is very much questions that we wish we had the answers to. We understand that families are struggling. We greatly understand that. And I have been on some of my late afternoon walks. I've been talking to many teachers in the neighborhood who are expressing these concerns to me as well. We are faced with ministry direction, and we must comply with that direction as best as we can with trying to give families some outs here or there. But it's not perfect for families. It's tough, and our teachers would much rather, from everybody I've talked to, be back face to face, as would we. That's where we feel students learn best, knowing that there are exceptions out there. But I just really wanted to take this time to thank the senior team for all of their above and beyond work this past week. It's just exceptional. And I am so hopeful that they get some time this summer to rejuvenate and rest, because they certainly haven't had any time for a long, long time.
Thank you, Lori, for that. And
Trustee Morgan, did you have something to say?
yes, I just wanted to say thank you, particularly to all the senior staff, Lori included. I know you were working really hard too. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions on the school update report, which I know we get to see every meeting, we will move on to our communications and correspondence. So under correspondence, we do have an item this meeting. We received correspondence from the presidents of ETFO, Blue Water Local, and OSSTF District 7 regarding the COVID-19 screening and isolation protocols. And when we receive correspondence such as that, we have an opportunity at a board meeting, so tonight, to discuss and determine our response as a board of trustees. So I am opening this up to us as trustees for any comments or suggestions regarding our response. Well, it's quiet. So given that, I would like to suggest that we put a motion on the floor suggesting that we respond via a letter. And I would like a mover and a seconder, and then we'll work on our motion. But if I could have a mover and a seconder, then we'll figure out our motion in terms of our wording. Trustee Morgan and Trustee Dawson, thank you. So with trustees' indulgence, I'm suggesting that the chair, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, write a response letter acknowledging the concerns that were highlighted in the letter. Are there any comments, questions, concerns with doing that? I see none. Thank you very much. All in favor of that? I see that's carried. And any announcements, director, trustee, conferences, conventions, out of district meetings? Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, it's just a reminder to trustees that you had received an email concerning OPSPA's project Compass, and that there's an April 22nd deadline to complete that. It's that you've been sent a link to a Survey Monkey. It's easy to do, and although it will take you about 20 minutes, it would be helpful to OPSPA. It's gone to all the public school boards, so we're looking for response to information for the OPSPA to better respond to school boards and represent. Thank you.
Any other announcements? I would just like to take a minute to thank Trustee Johnstone for all the work she does to attend all the OPSPA work. There have been regional meetings, and the work that she's doing in terms of program and director meetings, it takes a lot of extra time over and above the work we do as trustees. So I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you very much. Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, and I just want to let you know that it's actually become, I mean, obviously I like to be involved, but I can tell you that it's been a lot of work. I've been a lot of online meetings, and I'm really becoming tired of Zooming. You know, seriously, just really tired of it. And but you know, it's just not that part. We've had some, you know, standing committees created that then I had to be, it wasn't something I volunteered, but because I'm the chair of program, I was put on. So one of them, and it has to do with one of those surveys, has to do with the Survey Monkey that takes 20 minutes, has to do with governance. And but the other one has to do with basically you could say the online learning part, which is, to me, has been very interesting because the committee is actually composed of directors and teachers and educators. So it's actually been quite, I would say, high, you know, like a lot of pedagogy, education pedagogy. So I've actually found that really very, very interesting. So, but yeah, there have been a lot of meetings. So thank you. I appreciate it.
I think there's lots to be learned to join in, but I am aware of how much extra time it takes. And I must say I have opted out on some of those meetings, and I know Trustee Johnstone has gone ahead and represented our board, so we should be very grateful for her time on that. The trustee calendar of events, is there anything people are noticing as an issue, or just draw your attention to it otherwise? And that brings us to our adjournment at 8:58 p.m. Could I have a mover that the Blue Water District School Board adjourn at 8:58? I see Trustee McComb, seconded by Trustee Miller. All in favor? And that is carried. Stay well and safe, everyone. Thank you very much.